July 18, 1944. Kummersdorf, Germany. Weapons Analysis Laboratory of the Waffenamt, Wehrmacht's Weapons Procurement Agency. Hauptmann Friedrich Müller, weapons engineer with 20 years of experience, examined American M1 Carbine rifle captured during fighting in Normandy 3 weeks after D-Day. He held weapon with just one hand, deliberate gesture emphasizing lightness he considered fundamental weakness. It weighed mere 2.4 kilograms, half of robust German Karabiner 98K's 4 kilograms. .30 carbine cartridge seemed pathetic compared to powerful 7.92 millimeter Mauser. Documented effective range was only 275 meters versus 500 or more of K98K. 15-round magazine was only impressive aspect, but didn't compensate for inferior stopping power. Miller turned to assistants gathered around examination table. Germany possessed Sturmgewehr 44, world's first true assault rifle, revolutionary in concept with intermediate caliber and selective fire. M1 Carbine seemed technological regression, second-class rifle for second-class soldiers. This American M1 Carbine is weapon for support troops, drivers, officers, artillerymen who don't truly fight. Our Sturmgewehr 44 represents future of modern infantry. They produce cheap, weak rifles for those who don't fight. We produce revolutionary weapons for warriors. Act 2. The Thesis of Inevitability, the Refutation. What Müller and German engineers didn't perceive during superficial technical analysis focused on ballistic specifications was that they were examining most produced individual firearm by United States in World War II, surpassing even famous M1 Garand, and that its apparent technical inferiority was precisely what made it revolutionary in strategic impact. Between 1941 and 1945, America produced 6.1 million M1 carbines through 10 different manufacturers, including companies as unlikely as IBM producing office machines, Rock-Ola known for jukeboxes, and Underwood manufacturer of typewriters. Cost was only $45, half of M1 Garand's $85. Genius didn't reside in being better rifle, but in being good enough rifle produced in quantity so massive, it transformed drivers, artillerymen, officers, paratroopers, and tank crews into effective combatants armed with semi-automatic firepower. Germany produced approximately 425,000 Sturmgewehr 44s, technically superior but in catastrophically insufficient quantity. Devastating ratio: 14 M1 carbines for each STG-44. War wasn't won by best assault rifle but by putting lightweight semi-automatic rifle in hands of literally every American soldier. Mathematics of abundance was already being written not in specific ballistic superiority but in production numbers, so vast they transformed concept of individual armament. United States produced 6,110,969 M1 carbines during World War II, number surpassing M1 Garand production with 5.4 million, Thompson SMG with 1.3 million, and Springfield 1903 with 1.4 million. It was literally most produced individual firearm by America in war. Germany, with its revolutionary Sturmgewehr 44 considered superior by technical analysts, produced approximately 425,000 units. Ratio was 14.3 to 1 in favor of M1 Carbine. But real disparity transcended raw numbers because American production was distributed through 10 main manufacturers, with complete parts interchangeability between all producers. Inland Division of General Motors alone produced 2,625,000 units, representing 43% of total production. Winchester, original designer who won development competition, produced 828,059. But real magic was in unlikely manufacturers transformed into arsenals. Underwood Typewriter Company, known for typewriters, produced 545,616 rifles. IBM, International Business Machines famous for office equipment and tabulating machines, produced 346,500. Rock-Ola Manufacturing Corporation, manufacturer of colorful jukeboxes for bars and restaurants, produced 228,500. Quality Hardware and Machine Company produced 359,666. This diversification meant concentrated bombing couldn't destroy production capacity, as happened with centralized German factories. Cost revealed another dimension of economic disparity. Each M1 Carbine cost approximately $45 to produce in early war in 1942, compared with $85 for M1 Garand, almost double. Thompson SMG cost $225, 5 times more than Carbine. German Karabiner 98K cost equivalent to $50 to $60. Sturmgewehr 44 cost equivalent to $75 to $100. For resources needed to produce one STG-44, Americans produced 2 to 3 M1 Carbines. .30 carbine ammunition was significantly cheaper than .30-06 of Garand, used less critical resources like copper and special steel, was smaller and lighter, allowing soldier to carry double ammunition for same weight, and was easier to mass produce with less demanding tolerances. At peak production during 1943 and 1944, American factories produced approximately 150,000 M1 carbines per month, more than all German STG-44 production in 4 months. This production speed was possible because carbine design was intentionally simplified for mass manufacturing. Used metal stamping and welding where traditional rifles required extensive machining. Parts were interchangeable not just between manufacturers but between production lots, allowing field repairs with parts from any damaged rifle regardless of who produced it or when. Operational ubiquity was where M1 Carbine transcended conventional metrics of weapon effectiveness. It was originally designed to replace .45 pistol as weapon for support troops, truck drivers, artillerymen, radio operators, officers, tank crews, rear area personnel. But proved so effective it was adopted by frontline combatants too, including light infantry, reconnaissance units, and especially paratroopers who received M1A1 version with folding wire stock, of which 140,000 were produced. Result was practically every American soldier possessed semi-automatic weapon. Truck driver had firepower that German infantry soldier with bolt-action K98K couldn't match in rate of fire. Carbine's technical inferiority in range and power became irrelevant when literally everyone was armed with rapid-fire capability. M1 Carbine was born from urgent Army requisition in 1940 to replace .45 pistol that was heavy, difficult to master, and ineffective beyond 25 meters. Army wanted lightweight weapon for troops who weren't frontline infantry, but needed something better than pistol. Winchester Repeating Arms Company responded to solicitation with design rapidly developed by team, led by David Marshall Williams, engineer who had previously worked on short-stroke gas operation system. Prototype was developed in just 13 days in September 1941. Extraordinary speed possible, because Williams adapted concepts already tested in previous projects. Comparative testing against competing designs demonstrated Winchester rifle was lighter, more reliable, and easier to mass produce than alternatives. But production irony was that Winchester, despite winning design competition, didn't produce majority of rifles due to existing contracts for M1 Garand production and other weapons. American government quickly distributed production among multiple manufacturers using licensing system, where complete technical specifications were shared with all producers. Inland Division of General Motors became largest single producer with 2.6 million units, 43% of total. Inland was GM's subsidiary specialized in automotive components, had no previous firearms experience but applied automotive manufacturing techniques to rifle production with spectacular results. Transformation of civilian companies into military arsenals demonstrated unique American industrial capacity. IBM, known for tabulating machines and data processing equipment, converted production facilities to manufacture M1 Carbine receivers, barrels, and components. IBM engineers applied precision principles developed for mechanical office machines to weapons production, resulting in components with consistent tolerances, guaranteeing interchangeability. Rock-Ola, manufacturer of colorful jukeboxes popular in commercial establishments, redirected production lines that fabricated disc selection mechanisms and amplifiers to produce rifle actions and trigger assemblies. Underwood, dominant in portable typewriter market, applied expertise in compact precision mechanisms to manufacture rifle components. Quality Hardware and Machine Company, relatively small firm specialized in hardware, produced hundreds of thousands of receivers that were frequently subcontracted for final assembly by other manufacturers. Some bizarre markings appeared on rifles resulting from these complex collaborations, including rifles marked as manufactured by combination of two producers when receivers from one were assembled with components from another. This absolute interchangeability meant field armorer could take parts from damaged IBM rifle and install them in Winchester rifle without modifications or adjustments. Standardization was so rigorous that Rock-Ola magazines functioned perfectly in inland rifles, and Underwood bolts could be swapped with Winchester bolts without affecting function. Production speed escalated dramatically after American entry into war in December 1941. In 1942, first full year of mass production, manufacturers produced approximately 800,000 M1 Carbines. In 1943, production exploded to 2.2 million. In 1944, peak production, factories produced 2.8 million units. By May 1945, when war in Europe ended, another 700,000 were produced. Monthly production at peak reached 150,000 rifles, rate exceeding all German Sturmgewehr, 44 production over 4-month period. Unit cost of $45 in 1942 fell to approximately $35 in 1944, as economies of scale and process improvements reduced manufacturing expenses. For context, American factory worker earned approximately $40 per week, meaning M1 Carbine cost equivalent to 1 week of civilian worker salary. This accessible cost permitted production in volumes impossible for more expensive weapons. Thompson SMG at $225 was 5 times more expensive, limiting acquisition even when demand was high. M1 Garand at $85 was twice as expensive, restricting quantities available for main infantry. In actual combat, M1 Carbine demonstrated effectiveness that technical specifications didn't fully capture. During Operation Market Garden in September 1944, 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions jumped over Holland armed predominantly with M1A1 Carbine version, with folding wire stock designed specifically for paratroopers. Weight of 2.4 kilograms versus 5 kilograms of M1 Garand meant less stress during jump and landing. Folding stock allowed weapon to be carried in leg holster during jump, freeing hands for parachute control. Sergeant Don Malarkey of Easy Company, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne, described experience at Eindhoven. M1A1 saved lives during urban combat. Engagements were 50 to 100 meters, not 400. 15-round magazine gave us 3 times capacity of German K98K's 5 rounds. We could maintain suppressive fire while moving through streets. German soldiers with bolt-action rifles had to pause to reload after every 5 shots. We just changed magazines and kept firing. Captured German officers asked where we got automatic light machine guns. They were just carbines firing semi-automatic rapidly. This vignette captured essential truth about M1 Carbine. Ballistic inferiority in range and stopping power was irrelevant in real combat conditions where majority of engagements occurred at distances where rate of fire and magazine capacity mattered more than projectile energy at 500 meters. In urban environment or dense forest, combat rarely exceeded 100 meters. M1 Carbine was perfectly adequate for these conditions, while being significantly lighter and easier to handle than M1 Garand. Captured German documents revealed confusion and growing concern about ubiquity of American semi-automatic armament. Wehrmacht intelligence report from October 1944 admitted, American forces arm all soldiers with semi-automatic rifles, not just frontline infantry. Truck drivers carry lightweight semi-automatic rifles. Officers have semi-automatic rifles. Artillerymen defending positions have semi-automatic rifles. Our soldiers equipped with bolt-action carabiner 98K face significant rate of fire disadvantage, even when confronting American support troops, not main infantry. This ubiquity of semi-automatic armament multiplies American combat effectiveness beyond what troop numbers would suggest. Another German intelligence document from December 1944 during Battle of Bulge observed, we captured American rifles with surprising markings including IBM and Rock-Ola, companies known for office machines and jukeboxes, not traditional weapons manufacturers. This discovery reveals Americans literally transformed entire civilian industrial base into armaments production. Our Sturmgewehr 44, technically superior in all ballistic aspects, was produced in only 425,000 units due to manufacturing capacity limitations and resource scarcity. Americans produced over 6 million carbines using 10 different manufacturers. It's not question of superior technology being developed, but capacity to produce adequate technology in quantities that make specific technical superiority strategically irrelevant. Third document, after-action report from Panzer Unit in Alsace in January 1945, described confrontation illuminating disparity. During ambush of American supply convoy, we expected to encounter minimal resistance from drivers and support personnel armed only with pistols or short-range submachine guns. Instead, every American in convoy possessed lightweight semi-automatic rifle. Truck drivers, whom we should have captured easily, responded with volume of fire that suppressed our assault infantry. We lost initiative before tanks could position. Convoy escaped with minimal losses because drivers fought like trained infantry using effective rifles. This capability for universal resistance transforms every American formation into potential combatant, eliminating easy targets traditional tactics would exploit. M1 Carbine also demonstrated surprising longevity, contrasting sharply with fate of German Sturmgewehr 44. American inferior rifles served United States military for more than 50 years after World War II. During Korean War from 1950 to 1953, M1 Carbine was extremely popular among American troops due to lightweight being a significant advantage during marches in Korean mountainous terrain. Many soldiers preferred carbine to heavier Garand, despite shorter range because combat frequently occurred at short distances, where lightness and maneuverability outweighed stopping power. During initial phase of Vietnam War, M1 carbines were extensively supplied to South Vietnamese forces, and some specialized American units continued using rifles until mid-1960s. Rifle was also supplied to dozens of American allies including South Korea, where it remained in service until 1970s, Philippines, and multiple Latin American countries that operated carbines until 1980s, and in some cases 1990s. This operational longevity of 5 decades contrasted dramatically with Sturmgewehr 44, which, despite revolutionizing assault rifle design and influencing development of Soviet AK-47 and eventually American M16, was discontinued after 1945 and replaced by more modern designs in all armed forces. Irony was profound. Second-class rifle hastily designed in 1940 to replace pistol served half-century in conflicts around world. German revolutionary rifle that established paradigm of modern assault rifle was retired immediately after war that produced it. Practical adequacy combined with massive production capacity and design durability proved to have greater strategic value than ballistic excellence in scarcity. December 28, 1944. Hürtgen Forest, Germany. Oberst Hans von Luck, Panzer Regiment commander veteran of campaigns in France, North Africa, and Eastern Front, examined equipment captured from killed and prisoner American soldiers during Battle of Bulge. Von Luck, professional officer with decade of combat experience, noticed pattern transcending superficial tactical observation and revealing disturbing strategic truth. Practically every American soldier, regardless of function or specialty, carried semi-automatic rifle. Infantry had M1 Garands, but surprisingly truck drivers had M1 Carbines. Artillerymen had carbines. Radio operators had carbines. Even kitchen personnel captured far from immediate front lines carried carbines. Von Luck picked up rifle marked Rock-Ola Manufacturing Corporation and examined with growing comprehension of implications. Rock-Ola was jukebox manufacturer transformed into arsenal during total American industrial mobilization. He compared mentally with German situation. Majority of his troops still carried Carabiner 98K with bolt action, excellent design but requiring bolt manipulation after each shot, limiting rate of fire to 10 to 15 rounds per minute for competent shooter. Sturmgewehr 44, revolutionary assault rifle of which he was proud and which represented infantry future, had been distributed only to elite units in limited numbers. Total German production of 425,000 STG-44s seemed impressive until confronting reality that Americans had produced over 6 million carbines using office machine companies and jukebox manufacturers. Mathematics was devastating when considered seriously. His soldiers with K98K could fire 10 to 15 rounds per minute if well trained. American soldiers with M1 Garand or Carbine could fire 30 to 40 rounds per minute sustainedly, 3 to 4 times German rate of fire. But real advantage transcended cadence numbers because literally all Americans were thus armed. There was no soft rear to exploit tactically. Isolated truck driver responded with same firepower as infantry. Von Luck thought of Sate G44, weapon Germans considered technically superior to any Allied rifle. With intermediate caliber, selective fire, 30-round magazine, represented conceptual leap beyond conventional rifles. But 425,000 produced versus 6 million carbines meant for each German soldier with STG-44, there were 14 American soldiers with carbines. Technical superiority drowned in sea of numerical adequacy. He perceived that while Germany concentrated scarce resources on producing small numbers of technically sophisticated weapons for selected elite troops, Americans had democratized semi-automatic firepower for absolutely everyone. Fundamental philosophy was opposite: technical aristocracy versus egalitarian abundance, and abundance was winning through brutal mathematics of numbers multiplied by time. Von Luck wrote in personal diary that night, entry preserved in archives. Examined today American M1 Carbine rifle captured from truck driver. Technically inferior to our carabiner 98K in range and power, vastly inferior to our revolutionary Sturmgewehr 44 in all ballistic aspects. But discovered through markings that IBM, International Business Machines known for office equipment, produced 346,000 of these rifles. Rock-Ola, company manufacturing colorful jukeboxes, produced 228,000. Inland Division of General Motors produced 2.6 million. Total American production exceeds 6 million. Our superior revolutionary Sturmgewehr 44, 425,000 units, less than 10% of American production of technically inferior weapon. This isn't defeat caused by them having designed better rifles than ours because they don't. It's defeat caused by them having transformed entire industrial society, including typewriter manufacturers and jukebox makers, into arsenal capable of producing adequate in quantity that makes superior irrelevant through absolute numerical submersion. Every American truck driver possesses semi-automatic firepower that our infantry soldier with bolt-action K98K cannot match in cadence. Every enemy officer, every artilleryman, every radio operator is effective combatant with semi-automatic rifle. No soft targets exist in American formation. This isn't war between armies but industrial avalanche against traditional military force. We're being buried not by better soldiers, but by unimaginably productive factories. Final statistics were overwhelming in totality, and unequivocal in verdict on industrial armaments production. United States produced 6,110,969 M1 carbines between 1941 and 1945, making it most produced individual firearm by America in World War II, surpassing even iconic M1 Garand with 5.4 million units. 10 main manufacturers, including unlikely IBM, Underwood, Rock-Ola, and Quality Hardware, demonstrated American capacity to transform complete civilian industrial base into functional arsenal. Unit cost of $45 versus $85 of Garand, $225 of Thompson, and approximately $75 to $100 of German Sturmgewehr 44 revealed economics permitting massive quantity. Ratio versus STG-44 was 14.3 to 1, 6.1 million versus 425,000. Weight of 2.4 kilograms, half of Garand and half of K98K, allowed all soldiers to carry effective firepower. Operational legacy spanned 50 years of service from World War II through Korea, Vietnam, until 1970s and 1980s. General Omar Bradley, commander of 12th Army Group supervising largest American military formation in Europe, declared in post-war assessment, M1 Carbine was possibly most important individual weapon of war, not for superior ballistic specifications, but because it armed literally every American soldier with usable semi-automatic firepower. Truck driver had carbine. Artillery officer had carbine. Radio operator had carbine. Tank crew had carbines. There was no unarmed or inadequately armed rear in American Army. This ubiquity of armament multiplied combat capacity by factor enemy simply couldn't comprehend or match. When every soldier can fight effectively, entire force becomes combat multiplier. This assessment from commander directing operations of millions of soldiers carried weight of operational experience at continental scale. Bradley recognized M1 Carbine's power didn't reside in technical superiority over German weapons in any individual metric, but in having armed absolutely everyone with adequate firepower for self-defense and short-range combat. Colonel Hans von Luck, in post-war interrogation testimony and subsequently in published memoirs, offered German perspective complementing American recognition. Germany possessed Sturmgewehr 44, rifle technically superior to any Allied weapon in design, innovative intermediate caliber, selective fire capability, revolutionary concept that would influence all future infantry arms. But we produced only 425,000 at moment we needed millions. Americans produced over 6 million rifles we considered technically inferior, but which were perfectly adequate for real purpose, arming all soldiers. Fundamental lesson of war I learned too late. Superior in scarcity inevitably loses to adequate in absolute abundance. Americans didn't win by having developed better engineering than ours because in many cases they didn't. They won by having transformed IBM, tabulating machine manufacturer, Rock-Ola, jukebox manufacturer, and dozens of other civilian companies into functional arsenals producing millions of adequate weapons, while we debated technical perfection and produced thousands of superior weapons. Quantity possesses its own quality when disparity is sufficiently massive. This recognition from enemy officer who had fought on 3 different fronts during 6 years captured central irony. Germany had revolutionized assault rifle design with STG-44 that would influence Soviet AK-47, American M16, and all subsequent generation of infantry weapons, but lost war to inferior rifle produced by typewriter manufacturers. M1 Carbine permanently proved armed industrial democracy defeats technical aristocracy. Germany produced best assault rifle of war but only for selected elite in inadequate numbers. America produced good enough rifle for absolutely everyone in quantity that flooded battlefields. Difference wasn't marginal, but categorical and decided conflict as certainly as air or naval superiority. More importantly, M1 Carbine demonstrated philosophy defining American military power to present. Not possessing best individual equipment in any specific category, but equipping all soldiers with adequate equipment in massive abundance, eliminating exploitable weaknesses. This approach required industrial capacity only society with vast diversified manufacturing base could achieve. Sturmgewehr 44. Revolutionized assault rifle concept and its technical legacy persists in every AK-47, M16, and subsequent modern design. But M1 Carbine revolutionized industrial armaments production, proving civilian companies can be converted into military arsenals through rigorous standardization and component interchangeability. Rifles marked IBM, Rock-Ola, and Underwood became symbols of total industrial transformation only fully mobilized democracy could execute. Relative anonymity of M1 Carbine in popular historical consciousness compared to M1 Garand or Thompson constitutes final irony. It was literally most produced individual weapon by America in war, armed more soldiers than any other American weapon, served in more theaters and functions than any competitor. But its very ubiquity made it invisible through omnipresence. It was so common, it was considered normal, not exceptional. Every soldier had one, so no individual soldier noticed it as special. This normalization through absolute abundance was precisely the point. M1 Carbine didn't need to be exceptional, because there were 6 million of them, arming literally everyone. Excellence through scarcity, loss to adequacy through abundance. Lesson transcending specific World War II context and remaining relevant to understanding industrial power applied to military conflict.